Hello, everybody. Crypto season 9th of September with the Bitcoin weekly update. Hope you're all well. Usual warning, not financial advice. Invest what you can only afford to lose. Cryptocurrencies are hugely volatile. Okay, so we since the last time I spoke to you, we trended downwards. You know that some of us kind of sold our positions around about 23.5. There were stops there, some a little bit higher, 24, 25. And then personally myself, I then picked my position back up around about 19.5K and bought some more Bitcoin, or some of my orders were filled yesterday with that drop down below 19K again. We've had a good snap back now. I think we're up about 9–10% on the day. It looks pretty strong so far, but don't be fooled because, as Lekinos said in the Discord earlier, Bitcoin and traditionals have been oversold hugely for a very, very long time. And if one only has to look at the weekly RSI to work that out. So there are going to be big snapbacks. I don't personally think that the low is in yet, but I think, as I've said to you for quite some months now, or weeks at least, this low is now beginning to form. Okay, how deep we go into this area, I do not know, but I personally think that we need to go back in there a few more times, or at least respect this trend line here, and do so for some time before we could say, right, okay, bottom's in. But my view is that the likelihood is the bottom isn't in. We're going to either have to come back and test this and go sideways for a long period of time, or we're going to have to come down and visit some lower prices for a little bit of further pain. But that being said, this is a nice move for Bitcoin. It's a nice snapback to the upside. I wouldn't be calling the bear market over until we essentially get ourselves above about 29K. Once we get above 29K, I think that's the point of which you could say, right, okay, it's over. We're going to now move probably sideways toward the halving, maybe have a rally to the upside, and then move sideways to the halving. I mean, a good indication, or a good historical rather example of that, is when you look back to 2018, where it dropped down in, and then we had that low. It was really brutal. We had that low in around December time, and then it went sideways for a long time into 2030. Then there was this sudden snap out. Okay, and that, I mean, this could be that snap, we don't know, but we've had a few snaps so far, haven't we? And they just failed to get up there. But then you could see it snap back up. This was the heavy line of the resistance above, the above head resistance. And it snapped and it broke that, and it was off. And then it went off and had a really good rally. I remember it well. I remember trading this on BitMEX with Lecky, in fact. And we had a good snapback, good rally up to about 14K or so. And then that was the end of it. And then she went sideways, and Bitcoin probably would have trended, this kind of sideways action, or ranging action between 10 and 6K throughout this period. But then we had COVID, and it was like, see you later, bang, and then we came back. But this is a very good example of this bear market happening, dropping down, 19 weeks of brutality, sitting on the edge, everyone calling 1K, then boom, there's a snap, and it's back above that really that overhead resistance, strong overhead resistance, which pretty much is exactly the same here. So, if we have this kind of price action going on where we snap out of it, and then we can get ourselves above this overhead resistance, which is really, really heavy. It's super heavy, of 29K. If we can snap above that, then I think you could probably say with quite some certainty that was the bottom's in. Okay, but this is why I am accumulating down here. Whenever we go into this pink area, I'm buying Bitcoin. Simple as that. I'm now about 50% allocated, so we'll see what happens. But I think, given that we had 19 days on the bottom back in 2019, we had a 51-week downward trend. Okay, that if we had the same here, if we had a 51-week downtrend and 19 weeks at a bottom, we're still looking for a little bit more downside or a little bit more sideways. Okay, so I think the low is not in, or at least the bottom's not quite in yet. But either way, as I said to you, if the bottom's in, I can live with that. That's fine. I'm not going to get caught chasing this market because I've been taking good positions below this black line. So anything below 20K, I'm a buyer. Obviously, you need to ladder your orders down to the bottom. But let's see what happens. I mean, this is very positive and we shall see. But for me right now, this is nothing but a snapback in a bearish downtrend. So the likelihood is that there will be some further blood to come until we can decisively get ourselves above 29K. It's a long way, really. It's a long way, but let's see what happens.
Welcome to Prime XBT, the most powerful trading platform, offering immediate access to more than 30 assets. Trade cryptocurrencies, forex, stock indices, and much more.
So on the 4-year cycle, we all know this one. You've all seen it many times before. We've got the first halving in November 12, then we've got the second halving in July 16, third halving in May 2020, and then the next scheduled halving is around about February 2024. It moves a lot. Some days it's March, some days it's April, but the last time I plotted this, it was February. If you go and have a look now at the countdown clock, it may well have changed quite a lot. But essentially, it's the sort of first part, or the latter part rather, of 2024. Sorry, the latter part of Q1 2024. So that's where the next halving is. I don't care what anybody says, the halvings are important for Bitcoin at the moment. Once Bitcoin gets to $1 trillion market cap, maybe higher, 5 trillion, then maybe I will say that the halving doesn't matter anymore. But for me, the halving matters a lot. And certainly when one looks and does a deep analysis of the cycle of Bitcoin, the halving is important because every time there's a halving, there is a very, very strong parabolic move to the upside. First halving, move to the upside and parabolic nature. Second halving, very deep, strong upside parabolic move. And again, the last halving we had, again, was a very, well, not as strong as yours, but a pretty parabolic move to the upside from 8K to 64, 65K. So the halvings in my mind do matter, and I don't really care what anybody says because nobody has persuaded me thus far or that the halvings don't matter. And we all know that Bitcoin basically trends in 4-year cycles. That's what this chart tells us. That is not broken yet, and until it's broken, I think it's worth absolutely noting it. And we know that from peak to peak and bottom to bottom, it's usually around 208 to 205 bars, which is 205 or 208 weeks, which is just about, well, 208 weeks is exactly 4 years. 205 is a little bit short. So we're waiting on firstly, peak to peak from 2017 to this peak in 2021 was pretty much bang on 205 bars. So it was a little bit of an early peak of the cycle, but it was pretty much exact on the 4 years. So peak to peak, 205 bars, bottom to bottom. The bottom, if this is correct, should be in around about November time. Could be in a little bit earlier, could be in a little bit later. But what's worth noting, as I said in my last analysis, is that the bear market downtrends for Bitcoin seem to be getting less brutal, or they are shorter in time. So the first one was 58 weeks, the second one was 51 weeks. So if we assume that this bear market downtrend is a little bit shorter than the last one, but similar in nature because of the state of equities and the economic environment at the moment, then you're looking at the end of October, Halloween time, for that low to come in, and that is kind of confluent with the 14th of November. But make no bones about it, we are very, very, very close to being in that 4-year cycle low territory. Q4 is where it starts, and that's the 1st of October. And that is when we are in that cycle territory. It's possible that the low is already in, but I think we're going to go at least sideways for a little bit longer anyway. But my view is I think we have a little bit of a snapback, and then we come back down into this pink box area to finish the 4-year cycle low, then we go off. So I think there's a little bit to go. It's possible that the low could be in, but my view is that I think there's a little bit more blood to come. Certainly the Fed aren't going to look at pivoting any soon. Spoke to someone from Blue Crest Capital Management whilst I was in Dubai, and they thought that there could be a pivot could be coming maybe at the end of the year or around the midterms. But we shall see. But the long and short of it is this: Bitcoin has snapped back. I'm glad that a lot of you picked up some decent price Bitcoin down in this buy area. Let's see what happens with this. I'm not interested in this until essentially it can blast through 28.5 or 29K. Once it gets through there and holds well, then we can confirm that that is the end of the bear market. It's over, and we are going to probably trend sideways for quite a lot of time, or maybe have a nice decent rally like we did in 2019 to the upside, have a pullback. We could go up 50K, come back to 29K, go sideways into the halving about 30K, and then make our ascent toward the higher prices that we are looking for. But as I say, for me right now, this is just a bear market rally. Enjoy it whilst it lasts, but the chances are we will be visiting those deeper depths of the crypto Caesar capital buy zone come the end of this month, into October and November, and then we can decisively say when we get into the Q4 whether we think the low's in or not. But for this model essentially to be invalidated, we would have to be making lower lows beyond January. So if we're mid-January, end of January, beginning of February, and Bitcoin is still making lower lows, then this model is incorrect, and then we have to rethink about what we're going to do. But for me at the moment, this model's been pretty accurate since Bitcoin's inception. So I'm going to stick with this for the moment. Bitcoin, as we know, is a very cyclical asset. It likes to work in cycles, and it's very, very likely, in my opinion, that it will continue to do so. We've got to remember as well, we have had a very deep, pullback, of 74.35% from the high to the low. That's pretty deep, okay? And historically, most Bitcoin pullbacks have been about 84.25%. But this is 74.35, so it's not far off. And you've got to remember that, Bitcoin has changed as an asset. A lot more people are involved in it. Bigger institutions are involved in it. There are a lot more diamond hands involved in the hodling and buying and hodling of Bitcoin. So it could well be that was it. The 74%, 74.35% was the pullback, because that is a considerable pullback. We've got to remember that. But still, for me, I still think that we are essentially in this range for a while. Whether we go deeper than the low in June of 17.9, I don't know. I think possibly. For me, about 13.5K is probably where the low will be. But who knows? I'm not a magician, and I can only give an educated guess based on the data before me. But that's it. So let's see what happens. Keep hodling. Keep looking to buy in that buy zone. And yeah, I shall speak to you in the group. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good weekend.